over John's way. He is with one of his rescue pups and his wife at the vet. His rescue pup's name is Charlie. So all the good vibes and prayers over to you guys. And we're keeping our fingers crossed that things go well with Charlie. And he comes home tonight and snuggles in bed because I got the fire going behind me because it's still cold in Texas. We are not cut out for this. If you're a first responder and you got to be out in this stuff, hey, please take care, duck in, warm yourself, keep your car at like 80, whatever you need to do. It is still January, and now is really the perfect time to get your mental health, wellness, and resiliency house in order. I've talked about this before. I'm not a big proponent of New Year's resolutions because statistics still show that New Year's resolutions just by the 15th of the month, and we're already the 22nd, have like just gone out the door. But what I am a big proponent of is taking the time to really examine the things that you want to bring alongside you. And because we talk about mental health and wellness and resiliency and everything healing for the first responder on this podcast, we have brought you so many resources all of last year and these first bunch of weeks in the new year. And so, John and I just ask you to take some time, whether it's tonight or maybe tomorrow morning, and just write out the things that you want to explore. Or maybe it's something that is missing. You want to read a book that'll bring a new skill to you. You want to continue to listen to this podcast or maybe add another podcast. Maybe after tonight, you'll want to reach out to our incredible guests that are putting more tools in your wellness and resiliency toolbox. And I'm going to bring them on, but we always talk about that we're all individuals, just like our fingerprints, our brains imprint differently. We all connect to what the word mental health means, what the word wellness means, what building resiliency means. And so that's why John and I are dedicated to bringing you the best in what is out there. And tonight, maybe two people that you've never heard of, and the things that they do to heal the brain, to heal the body, to build resilience, to build camaraderie is absolutely astounding. So without further ado, I want to bring on Michelle Adams and Rob Sanderson to the podcast. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Rob. Welcome to a Badge of Honor podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
You are welcome.
Sam, and thoughts and prayers out for John and Charlie.
Yeah. He's a little Boston Terrier dude, and he's a good dog. He's a good dog. So prayers to Charlie. Well, let's dive right in. Michelle, we'll start with you. Just tell everybody watching and listening about your background and what you do on your website.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I got into this in a very circuitous way when I was younger. When I was 35, I had been diagnosed with a host of different disorders. I was in corporate. I was a mom of two small children, girls at that time. And because of all the stress that I had had in my life, my endocrine system shut down along with, like I said, 5 other disorders, one of which I had to have weekly infusions for in order to function. The other of which put me into what they call premature ovarian failure, meaning that I could no longer have children. So this was actually 20 years ago, as of 2 days ago. They called me on my birthday when I was 35 to tell me that I was in menopause and I would no longer have any more children and all these fun things. Okay. So at that point, and this is what I teach my students, joy is a skill. It is a practice. It goes on between your ears. What happens between your ears is the most powerful thing. So fast forward, I had done yoga therapy training, healed my body, was no longer having infusions, was no longer on medication, turned up pregnant with my son. Doctor said, okay, well, you need to abort because you won't be able to carry him. Once again, what goes on between your ears is far more powerful than anything that is out there. And that's what science is proving now. So anyway, Matthew is now 14. And he's in 8th grade. And the reason that I tell this story is because many times our first responders are given the thing, you'll never be able to heal this. You're on this medication for the rest of your life, and on and on and on. And I want you all and your listeners to understand that that is not the case. Science is proving every day that the body can heal if it's given the right tools, the right instruments. So that's what I do now. One of my students was in charge of the wellness program at Santa Ana College, where I teach in the fire technology department. So I teach both our academy, and then I teach wellness to our cities that contract with the college. And there's about 3,000 or so active members, active first responders, mostly fire, but some police as well, that sign up for our wellness program.
Wow. Yeah, that you are so right with the, joy. It's also a choice, that you make to think positively every day, because the longer that you're a first responder, and it may be, starting when you're a child, because we've talked about childhood ACEs and trauma and how they have the effect that they do on our first responders who choose that profession. But it's so easy. We're so groomed to look to the negative because we're answering, someone's worst call on any given day. And we go from call to call to call, whether you're fire or police or dispatch, whatever your first responder profession is. And you are so right. I started a gratitude journal again, on, off. And that really is the joy piece, because we've got to think about, okay, been through just a ton of shit. What am I grateful for? And it really does turn on that joy factor, where you're not looking to the negative every second of the day and commiserating with other negative people, because it is so easy.
Truly. And that's the dark humor, etc. But what we know about first responders in general in their lives is their amygdala, part of their limbic brain, is larger just because of the exposure to traumatic events. And if we don't teach them, so I always ask my students, what's the most important, your brain or your body? And Rob's laughing because he's gotten this one before. And some of them will answer. And the reality is both. Yeah, you're not going to walk around this world without a body, and it doesn't look pretty without a brain. Okay. However, most of us exercise, and we know that that's good for our cardiovascular health. The majority of my first responder populations do not meditate. And that is building the muscle for the right hemisphere of the brain. That's actually like you're lifting a bicep. So you shut off the amygdala, that part of the brain that is looking for the next tiger that's going to attack you. And so without a meditation practice, it can be 2 minutes. It can be just mindfulness. And we can do some of that fun stuff if you'd like to kind of give your students that, or your listeners, that information. But the goal is for them to do both. You have to exercise as a first responder, and you have to meditate as a first responder. Otherwise, it's kind of like you're not flossing your teeth.
Oh, and we all need to floss our teeth. that is for sure. Hey, we're gonna take our first break. We're gonna come back with Rob off the break, and then we're gonna talk about meditation, because for some people that's like they just slammed on the brakes. And Rob, you talk about it on the website as well, with the meditative practice of what you do at SWEL, and we'll get into that. We got to take our first break, everybody. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Move freely, America, without medical restrictions or penalty. Without medical freedom legislation in place, our rights and freedoms are one vote away from being dissolved. Move freely, America, with one voice, without fear of retribution, achieving a common goal, medical freedom. We the people make our voices heard by connecting with state legislators and engaging a constitutionally compliant medical bill of rights for all citizens. Individually, change is improbable, but as an aggregate, attainable. It's time to act with one voice. My voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
To protect our freedom, creating one voice that cannot be ignored. This requires your voice, too. Move Freely America. Go to movefreelyamerica.org to find a chapter near you. Plug in, donate, and help our legislators defend our God-given rights under the Constitution. Move Freely America. My voice.
And my voice.
And together with your voice, we're one voice that cannot be ignored. Donate today. MoveFreelyAmerica.org.
Hey, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast. We are powered by the OBBM network. We are having a great conversation. Michelle just introduced us to what she does and some really cool science about the brain. Rob, why don't you take it from here? Tell everybody listening and watching about you, your background, and SWEL.
Yeah, so joined police department, right after 9/11, 1 year after 9/11. Started my career out in Gulfport, Mississippi. Was fortunate enough to work down there for 4 years till Katrina hit. Blew me all the way up to Kansas City. I transferred up here. Was a cop up here for about 14 years and then was injured on duty. Ended up taking a medical retirement in 2020. At the same time, I founded SWEL, and I'll get into that just a little bit. But I've been fortunate enough to really continue my career in the civilian side of things. So still in law enforcement, just an indoor cat now. Throughout my career, I grew up surfing, lived all over on the coast, was a Navy brat. And every couple of months I'd have this like itch, almost to the point to where it was like a physical reaction, like my bucket was full and I needed to go surfing. And I didn't really understand, what that was about until, probably 2019. And I started taking my buddies out with me and teaching them out in California how to surf with my friends that lived out there, and actually saw kind of that physical decompression change in my buddy's body language, his mentality, and just his demeanor. And then that kind of spawned the idea of SWEL. So SWEL is an organization full of just volunteers. Most of our volunteers are either veterans, first responders, active duty, or people like Michelle, are just great individuals and human beings that support what we do. Our typical missions are like 4-day kind of excursions, I guess you would say, all inclusive, out to Huntington Beach. We generally take people from the Midwest. We have taken, people from all over, really East Coast and parts of California as well. And we put them through as a group, and we do get them out into nature, get them out in the water, bring them through some courses with Michelle. She'll come out and work with us, work with our people on some breath work, meditation, yoga nidra, or NSDR. We also have a chaplain come out, Matt Damiancic, who we were talking about offline. He's an expert in self-care, nutrition. He was a D1 football player, coach. And really just our point of each mission is to try to improve that hero's self-efficacy, or their ability to see themselves accomplishing future goals. And there's been a lot of studies on, especially when it comes to adventure sports and learning new skills, and how that could be beneficial. Kind of like how you're talking about gratitude. That's a huge thing, is if you can end a meditation with thinking of something you're grateful for, just what that does for your mind, body, and soul. So yeah, we've been going since 2020, started right ahead of a pandemic, and going strong.
Hey, that's great. We got our nonprofit in the midst of the pandemic, our status as well. So, I think that was a good thing, because it spurred those of us that are in that period of time. Like, we're not going to let this stop us and full force forward after that. You both mentioned meditation. So why don't we go to that? Because I have heard on listening to other podcasts, people that surf talk about how just being on the water and the motion, whether it's sitting on the surfboard or just laying on the surfboard. I'm not a surfer, so excuse me if I screw this up, but how that just letting the waves and closing your eyes is a meditative practice. Michelle, Rob, when you talk about meditation to turn off that reptile part of our brain that that fight or flight that keeps us hyper vigilant, what are you guys talking about, and how do you integrate it together when Michelle comes out to work with you?
You're exactly right. When it comes to surfing, I mean, if you think about meditation, it's just the intentional act of mindfulness, right? And most people, like you had mentioned, it's difficult to say, okay, turn off the lights and meditate for 30 minutes. Well, most first responders aren't going to be able to do that.
Right.
But if you can get them out into nature, introduce them to something called flow state, where you're in the water, you've got rolling tides, and then you need to focus on a skill that you've just learned, and all that other noise, the hypervigilance, you are solely focused on doing what your coach is telling you to, popping into the wave, feeling the energy, and then the elation from accomplishing that or improving your self-efficacy is a big part of surfing. Now, Michelle does a great job of kind of making little bite-sized pieces for our participants, usually at the house, and kind of explaining the purpose and the point of meditation, and then bringing them through, walking them through that NSDR or the breath work. All of that can be just related to meditation, mindfulness. And the thing about meditation is it doesn't have to be that traditional sense. You can do it through surfing. You can sit at the commercial break. You know what I was doing? I was doing a tactile, what they call a PQ rep, just to calm myself and to get myself into that right hemisphere. It can be something as simple as 30 seconds to 2 minutes, just to keep that mindset in bite-sized pieces. I'll let Michelle expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, because you just threw out a lot of letters. So let's break down everybody so that they can really understand that you're not asking, us to sit for an hour. Rob, you just said 30 seconds. So Michelle, let's unpackage those letters.
Yes, no, absolutely. So actually, for your listeners, if you stop, and I want you to tense every muscle that you have tight, super. So tense your jaw, close your eyes tight, squeeze your hands, squeeze your feet, squeeze your buns on your seat. Keep squeezing, keep squeezing, keep squeezing. And now let it relax. And let it relax. Keep your eyes closed for a moment and let it relax. And I want you to notice the air flowing in and out through your heart. See if you can imagine that your breath is flowing in and out through the heart. And now from this space, can you activate a regenerative feeling? For those of you that are surfers, it might be riding that wave. It might be a sunset. It might be your dog. And then just open your eyes and notice, did it shift? Okay. What ends up happening for our first responders, and in particular our police, our fire, we give them, it's a little different, but for our police, what happens is you're on that 12-hour shift, okay? You get call one. If call one was hairy, you're carrying that backpack, that cortisol that's been produced into that next call. And without a shift and reset, what ends up, the reality is all of us are walking around in a human body, and no human can handle that amount of cortisol being dumped into the system without a reset. And unless you shift and reset, what ends up happening on this job is you end up as a statistic. And that's the only reason that I teach first responders, because the reality is they'll give you a quote that you live X number of years on this job post-retirement, right?
Yep.
You guys have all heard it.
Yep.
The reality is, yes, if you do nothing else, okay? So if you're just going to walk around and be a statistic, but if you practice these tools, you don't end up as a statistic. So each of us has stress during the day that is producing cortisol. When you do just what you did, that was less than a minute, what happens is you're producing DHEA, which is the youthing hormone. It depletes as we age, but you can do it naturally. So it's almost like you're taking your phone and charging up its battery. You're doing the same thing with your internal battery. So all day long, you can be thinking about, am I depleting my battery? Did I get pissed off at my boss? Yeah. What can I do in order to replenish my battery? So doing that, focusing on the heart, focusing on your fingertips, yawning, jumping up and down, playing your favorite music, dancing around, those all create endorphins in the body that replenish, that charge your battery. So you're not walking into the next thing depleted.
Yeah, wow. That I felt that just, and that was like, that wasn't more than 30 seconds. What you just took us through, feeling more energy, and you can feel the breath going through you, kind of like I'll call it for me re-oxygenation. We're going to take our next break. We're going to talk more about what we just did when we come back. Stay tuned, everybody.
Interested in starting a podcast or TV show? Worried about what you'll say and how to keep it engaging? Think you'd like to be a guest on podcast, radio, or TV shows? Hi, I'm Susan Hamilton, owner and founder of OBBM Network, and I would like to invite you to an OBBM media training to get the tools you need for a relaxed and polished performance you'll be proud to share. Our specialized training techniques include role play, voice training, and everything you need to deliver a confident, clear, and engaging interaction. Go to offbeatbusiness.com. Go to the calendar and register for a training that's convenient for you. Dates available now, 214-714-0495.
Hey, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast powered by the OBBM Network. And our guests, Michelle Adams and Rob Sanderson. We are talking about meditation. We're talking about what health actually means. We're talking about how you live past retirement and that statistic. Because something in your health, if you're right, Michelle, if you don't get a hold of it and you wait, there's so many stories, and we've had the folks on the podcast. It was like, hey, I retired and then everything up here started. So we're looking to combat that, which means better overall health, because the heart is the number one thing that is impacted. Before we took a break, Michelle, you talked about cortisol and what happens when, if it could be a normal call that could just spur a memory from something that we experienced 15, 20 years ago, that brings everything back. And that cortisol dump, if you do not reset, that cortisol just keeps flowing. I know from experience after 9/11 for a solid year, there was no talking about how to reset our systems, how to deal, what cortisol even is. And so what happens when you use it all up? You go right into adrenaline. You don't know the difference. And when you burn through your adrenal system, lots of stuff happens. And I was one of those people that really had to do a hard reset with the help of some very skilled natural docs. Not the traditional meds. They were functional med docs. They knew exactly what my system needed from the blood tests and the other tests that I went through, and add on, lead from all the years of firearms training and everything I was exposed to on 9/11, and we came up with a recipe to get everything back in line. And Rob, I know that the folks, the first responders that are looking for an outlet or somebody saying, hey, you should try this, that is what the SWEL, and with the help of Michelle, that's what they're looking. They have to reset. And the beautiful thing is, number one, they're in nature. So we've got that right off the bat. So we're out of that hypervigilant state. We're amongst I'll say our own. So we're building camaraderie. We're learning a new skill in a beautiful spot. We got Michelle talking about the importance of meditation and using the waves, what's some feedback, Rob, that you've received from the folks that have gone through your program? And Michelle, please weigh in on this as well. With just that, like, oh my gosh, I feel like almost a new person.
Yeah, you really nailed it. I mean, a lot of the first responders, probably you experienced this too, didn't realize what state they were in, and they hadn't experienced decompression in such a long time. Other than they knew they just didn't feel well. So really, the decompression is obvious. Michelle takes a HeartMath reading from them before and after, and we compare kind of the results just through 3 to 4 short days. We've been super fortunate with feedback, and it's actually quite humbling. I have a little bit of imposter syndrome. I'm doing better. Michelle's been working with me, but when you see people come back and they've decided that their organization doesn't have a peer support program, so they're dead set on creating that program, or you see that just getting on an airplane and traveling away from their comfort zone and away from their problems out to a foreign place is a huge accomplishment. We had a guy that we took out 2 years ago that hadn't been on an airplane over 30 years. And it's just the little things. Them getting in the water is an accomplishment. And then for them to actually get out onto the board, stand up on a wave, watch, even for just half a second, is life-changing for a lot of them. And it's not because they're surfing, because most of the people we take don't come out and surf every day or week or month or even year. But what we've done is expose them to, this is what it feels like to feel some rejuvenation. And here are some tools provided by Michelle and Matt to where you can seek this in your own backyard. And this is the level that you need to maintain. So yeah, we've had a lot of positive feedback. We've been fortunate. We just actually, every year every trip rather, we take pre and post surveys based on the new GSE scale for self-efficacy and a few other questions. What we measure is improvements in depression, anxiety, stress, and then increase in self-efficacy. And if you bear with me a second, we actually calculated our 2023 results, which were based on our participants: 19% decrease in anxiety, 33% decrease in depression, 25% decrease in stress, and a 34% increase in self-efficacy. And they're doing the work. It's amazing to see them buy into the program, then have such experts like Michelle and our chaplain, Matt Domiancic, come out there and work with them. Is really been rewarding.
That's fantastic. And Rob, you mentioned HeartMath. Michelle, you and I connected a while back when I saw that on your LinkedIn page. Again, an amazing tool, because you see the change yourself. Can you tell everybody what HeartMath is and how easy it is to actually do and incorporate if any department wants to do it?
Absolutely. So HeartMath, in general, they're an organization out of Northern California. They've done more research on the heart than any other organization in, I believe, the world, but certainly in our country. They have a platform that's called the M-Wave Pro, and we use that. We're now using it in our academy. This is the first time. So we're doing a study in our academy. Half the academy is going to get the tools, half not, to see if we can improve heart rate variability. So heart rate variability is the determinative, basically how healthy you are, how it's a predictor of longevity. Okay. So low heart rate variability tells us that you're not as resilient as someone with a high heart rate variability. Okay. We can train that thanks to HeartMath, and we know that. So I can do it for you, a quick HeartMath technique. You got a little bit of it, but I'll do a more pronounced 2-minute of it. What we know is just in those 2 minutes, we can change your autonomic nervous system from stress to growth and repair. That's the goal. So from cortisol to DHEA. All right, training the nervous system. When we train our first responders basically how to tap on the brake instead of going full throttle, that teaches their system that, okay, it's all right to relax. So going back to what Rob said as well, when you take a group and you put them first out in nature, because nature is so grounding for us, the negative ions of the ocean, okay? Then you put them on a surfboard where they really have to engage every muscle in their body. They can't be thinking about that crap call that they just got. They can't, because every muscle in their body is engaged. Otherwise, they're going to tip over. It is one of the best mediums that I've discovered in order to get them clear-headed, laser focused. Now, if we can teach them how to become coherent while they're doing all of this, then all of a sudden now they're getting up. Okay. But what also ends up happening through this program is that they start sleeping. Okay. And that is a key thing, especially for the people that come out with SWEL. Many of them haven't slept a night in 3 years, in 5 years, some of them in 10 years. Okay. So the ocean, the being mindful, the learning how to become coherent is key to them. This is like their springboard into a new life. And what Rob didn't share, many of them have decided pre-coming out to SWEL, they're no longer going to be in the profession. They're getting out. And they go back and now they're energized and they're changing their departments from the inside out. It's incredible.
Yeah, new passion, that's fantastic to hear, because like John and I say, you come to a crossroads in your career where you either get to the point where you want to, with the political things that are going on, you want to just run, but we need the seasoned professionals to go to something like SWEL and come back and change and explain, be like, you can do this for 20 years. In Texas, we've worked with 2 police officers. They both actually have 42 years. And we asked them, about the longevity. And it is being aware of what is going on within themselves and making a conscious decision to change it when it's not good. Because, we ride that wave, that roller coaster of being a first responder. So the HeartMath, it's a machine, right?
So the tools are not a machine, but yes, we can measure, we can teach you what coherence feels like.
Okay.
And once you understand that, so sometimes it takes a person a moment. So you might think, okay, I'm so grateful for my kids. Okay. But it's not evoking the feeling that is changing the way that your heart beats, the coherence of it. So one of my students, I always tease about it. He went through the wife, the kids, and it was the brand new puppy that brought him the most into coherence. Okay. So some of the people in SWEL, once they figured out how to surf, it's not that they don't love their wife, their kids, etc., but it's that feeling, that flow state that brings them the most into coherence. And so the technology helps us train that. Okay.
Got it. Okay. Well, we're going to go to our break right now, and we're going to talk about that coherence, and maybe you can leave us with a little bit more in our toolbox, if you will. We'll be right back, everybody.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
All right, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast powered by the OBBM network. Yeah, that voice may have sounded familiar. Hey, and just to quickly announce, we've got an amazing women's course that we've put together, and it's really building confidence, and firearm skills are important. So go ahead and visit carryintexas.com and get yourself registered. Let's just jump right back into it, because Rob, you're a beneficiary of the work that Michelle is doing with coherence. And you're saying not coherence, it's coherence, right? It's different.
No, it's coherence. It's spelled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because your accent made it sound like way more important, because HeartMath, when you can put a visual to what you're talking about with the lights, because I've done it a couple of times, you're like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. Then you can return. But please take us through something, take us through an exercise related to that.
Perfect. And so this is going to be very experiential, which is helpful. Okay. So I'm going to have you and your listeners count your breaths for 30 seconds. Okay. Just how many breaths do you have in this 30 seconds? And I'm going to have you start counting your breaths now. Inhale, exhale equals 1. Sometimes it seems like the longest minute or half a minute of your life because you're focused on it. And stop. Okay. And you're going to multiply that by 2. That's how many breaths you have in a minute. All right. And what we know is that your heart rate variability is optimized when you're close to 5.5 breaths per minute. What ends up happening for our first responders is it usually gets well above 15. Okay. One of my groups a few years back, one of the captains had been killed in the line of duty, and his entire crew was over 20 breaths per minute. So 20 breaths per minute, your body thinks that you are fleeing from a tiger all day long. Okay. That burns out the system, right? Okay.
Wow.
So I'm going to have you inhale, take a pause, inhale again, exhale, hum it out. And do it just 2 more times. Inhaling, take a pause, inhale again, exhale, hum it out. And then this last one, inhaling, pause, inhale, pause, exhale, hum it out. And then close your eyes, and I want you to imagine your breath is flowing in and out through the heart. So some people like to imagine a bubble around their body, and inhale, that bubble gets smaller and smaller and goes into the heart. And as you exhale, that bubble gets bigger and bigger. See how far your awareness will go, how far out that bubble can go. So it's changing your brainwave states as we do this. So you're inhaling, pulling the breath into the heart, exhaling, pulling it away from the heart. See if you can inhale for a count of 4 or 5. Make your exhale longer. Now from this space, I invite you to activate a regenerative feeling, such as gratitude, such as appreciation for someone, something in your life, maybe a place in nature. You'll know it because it kind of shifts the body a little bit. You might get tingling. You might have just a relaxed feeling come over the body. So don't be scared to switch the thought a couple of times. Find which one works for you. Okay, and from this space now, inhale, exhale equals 1. Count your breaths now. Don't adjust them, just let them come naturally. That's 30 seconds. Multiply that by 2. And did it change?
It did. It went down.
Cut mine in half. Yeah. And I've done this a lot.
Yeah.
So that's
and the first time was really good, but this was even less. I hope people go back. Hey, if you were driving, if you're listening to this, obviously we're not closing our eyes, but go back and do these practices so you can actually count. You can set the timer because this was fantastic. So Rob, you and the group are beneficiaries of this. Michelle, the first responders that you work with in the academies are beneficiaries of this. Can people go on your website, Michelle, and connect with you personally to continue this kind of work?
Yes, absolutely. And just so that you know, US Navy, it's becoming a platform for them. So it's not, these are esoteric tools. You incoherence, when you drive incoherently, things can happen. So pilots in the Navy, et cetera, want to make sure that they're coherent. So it's a very big deal in our military. And it's picking up even more so. So yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. And all this, obviously, as you're rolling it out, you guys are doing research together. So year over year, you're building those numbers. You're able to show, hey, what we do, we know it works. Here are the numbers. And do you, Michelle and Rob, can any department reach out to you, to bring your programs into, obviously you have to go to surf, but the understanding of it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I talk to departments and officers and firefighters from all over the U.S. We talk about potentially getting them out on a SWEL trip, but just educating them as the tools that are out there and what's worked for me. I've been a recipient of Michelle's help. And I've also gone through the traditional areas as well and avenues, and medication was not the fix for me. It really wasn't. And I would urge anybody that is maybe struggling is to reach out and kind of see what's out there, educate yourself. Certainly medication is something that's vital and certain people need it, but not everybody needs it, and you don't need it forever. Like you described in your intro, it's post-traumatic injury. It's not post-traumatic death sentence. You can heal from this, and with tools and people, great people like Michelle and Matt and others, we can certainly direct you in the right way. And certainly if you want to come surfing with my buddies and come meet Michelle, give me a shout.
Absolutely. Awesome. We got to take our next break, and we will be right back. Stay tuned, everybody.
To the Health Engineer Show. I'm Kurt Buckley, the Health Engineer, right here on the Offbeat Frequency.
Hi, I'm Larry Corkamp.
Hi, my name is Susan Hamilton, and you're watching Offbeat. Hi, this is Doreen Milano. Welcome to Big Ideas Small Business, where we will talk to Carrie Arjala.
Welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast powered by the OBBM network. Rob, you made an invite. So what do the 4 days look like?
It's all about building community, giving the guys and gals some tools to take home with them, and then surfing. So it's a peer support kind of grassroots type of effort. The only kind of scheduling we have is really when we're going to surf and when Michelle's going to come hang out with us. It's not a sit down and let's talk about what your injury is over. There's a lot of community. We do family style meals where if your job is, hey, I don't really know how to cook, but I can cut carrots. That's your job. You participate in making the meal and sit down with the coaches at the beach house, and we all live in kind of a community hostel type environment, and then, go out and surf and get some tools.
Okay, so is there like a scholarship program, or you pay your way to get to Huntington Beach, right?
No, so we take care of everything. We fly them in from all over the U.S. And the goal here is that this doesn't come to any sort of, they're not going to accrue any debt. There's no expense other than their time. We have had departments sponsor them, put them out on training to come out with us or whatever leave, which is great to get the department's buy-in. So there's a nomination form on our website, which is the swel.org. Certainly nominate people. And then obviously any resources tossed our way to help us make these missions happen is much appreciated.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you guys are staying in one big house? And
yes.
then...
So what we do is, we'll fly them out there. We take care of transportation, all food. We'll all get posted up in the same Airbnb. We usually try to shoot for a couple of them in the area, Huntington Beach area that I'm aware of and have spent time at before. So we want to make it comfortable, close to the beach. And then all of our volunteer surf coaches are all active duty service member veterans or first responders there in the Huntington Beach area.
And you supply the surfboards, and Michelle comes. Are you working the HeartMath and the meditations and doing surfing in the same day, or is it like segmented out?
Yeah, so usually we'll come in on a Friday, get set up. If we have time to run to the beach and get a few waves, we will. Typically, Michelle will come in that Friday afternoon, sit down and talk with them, provide them a lot of education, take the first HeartMath reading. Then she'll come back, and you guys usually do like a sunset kind of yoga session out there as well, and do some more breath work. I know they got
I
guys
usually
run
kick
up and down
their
the beach.
Yeah,
They come back winded.
Their butts. I don't give them yoga as much that night.
That's right. Yeah, Sunday's more the restorative day. So yeah, it's we've got it dialed in pretty well, where it's kind of a combination of both. And then usually pre-surf, our board chair Jen, she'll lead them through some breath work to kind of lower that anxiety, some stretching before they actually get out to the water.
That's great. And Michelle, on your website, I mean, your experience in healing is amazing. And, Rob, when you said, medication, you can get off medication, it has its purpose. Obviously, we are not MDs, so just as a disclaimer, do what your doctor says. But listening to you guys, it's worth the question, right? Because if you can build a more resilient body, I mean, somebody that went from being told she'd never have kids again, and then hello, son, to healing, true restorative healing. To be able to reverse the damage, and with me and the work that John had done to detox our bodies and get our systems back on track, so it and help what we learn help deal with the stress, because we both have stress doesn't disappear from your life. It's just the tools that you have are that aid to be like, oh, I recognize this is XYZ, it's the name, and then I have the tool to help you move through it. What you guys offer and the tangibility of it, to see, okay, I came and my HeartMath says I'm here, and now I'm ready to go home, and HeartMath says I'm here. Wow. And have that whole new passion when they get back from the department. That's a research project right there. How many of them decide to stay?
Yeah, truly. And I think that's a good one for you too, Rob. And then we did throw out a couple of names, and one of them is on my website. So if you go to my website, there's a free download. It's called In the East. It came from Yoga Nidra, which means yogic sleep. Okay, we used it as autogenics. And so you'll see that name as well. So that's Olympians. That's kind of the term we used. Now it's being called non-sleep deep rest. So in India, 45 minutes replaced 4 hours of deep DNA reparative sleep. So for my first responders who are on 2 days in a row, who are in busy stations, who aren't sleeping, especially between 2 and 4 a.m., what we know is if they do an NSDR or a non-sleep deep rest session after lunch, what happens is they feel like they've slept.
Wow.
And Roland McCready of HeartMath used to come into the military and he'd say, how many of you guys sleep 6 hours a night? No one raised their hands. How many of you want to feel like you've slept 6 hours? All of them raised their hands, right? So that's what using the HeartMath tools, if you'll use it every couple of hours, does. And that's what an NSDR session does. So if you can add those things, they can be guided. HeartMath has guided tools on their website as well. And so I'm sure that Sam can get that to you. It's www.heartmath.org. It's got amazing, amazing tools for first responders as well.
That is amazing.
One of the
And
first
you know,
things I do-
say again, Rob.
No, I was going to drop in. One of the first things I do when somebody reaches out to me and says they're having trouble, whether it be stress, PTSD, or whatever, is I send them a audio file that Michelle gave me a long time ago. And it's of Michelle walking them through a guided NSDR. And it seriously helps, just an audio file. So I hope you don't mind, Michelle, but I've been sending your file out.
That's awesome. Teamwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now everybody watching and listening will know, they can contact you. Hey guys, if you're listening to the podcast, we've had Michelle's contact information up the whole time, as well as Rob's. Michelle is at michellepadams.com and Rob is at theswel.org. You can reach out to them. Also, where do you guys play on social?
We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and it's SWEL with 1 L.
Yes, SWEL. Yep. And yeah, so go ahead and you can reach out to Michelle and Rob, connect with them on social, get involved in the community, continue to understand this. Hey, I don't sleep great. This 45-minute, that you can get from Michelle, do it. It's 45 minutes. You'll feel like you slept 6 hours. Is that what it is?
So mine's only 20 minutes because my guys, usually it's after lunch. So if they get an hour, I've got to be able to fit it in.
Sure.
So mine's 20 minutes, but the research from India, I think they're doing more research here in the US. UCLA is doing a great job of breathwork research in addition to this. So it's on the path. I think Huberman might be doing something on it as well. So it's
Wonderful.
It's slated. I just don't know how much research in this country. So the research out of India is 45 minutes replaces 4 hours of deep DNA reparative sleep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. So check that out on Michelle's website. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing this just amazing information. Hope you guys, your phones are just blowing up. You get the emails, the contacts, because 20 minutes and then freaking go surfing. Come on, people. Come on. It doesn't get any better than that. I love it. Thank you guys so much.
Of course.
All right. We'll be in touch. Have a great one. All right. Yes, back. All right. So we want to thank Michelle and Rob for coming on the podcast. Chock full of information. Again, visit them, michellepadams.com, and Rob is at theswel with 1L.org. And it is the HeartMath. Like I said, I've done it before. Had no idea how in-depth, more in-depth it actually goes. And that 20-minute recording sounds fantastic. Hey, every week that you all are watching and tuning in, I talk about these guys right here, Carry the Load, the banners there. We are so grateful to Carry the Load. They've chosen us as nonprofit partners again this year. So visit carrytheload.org, find out how they're giving back to first responders, veterans, active duty, and family members of, doing great work. And if you, we want to thank everybody for tuning in week after week, especially our new Instagram family. We've been going live on Instagram just this last couple of weeks. So thank you for tuning in and your feedbacks and comments over there. Hey, if you like what we're putting out, please subscribe to us on the social media. We're everywhere, whether you find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. You may be watching this. We are on X at Badge of Honor and the number 1 on X, on Getter, on MeWe. Wherever you get and you like to spend your time looking at social, don't spend too much time, but wherever you like to spend it, go ahead and subscribe. And we want to talk about our newest partnership with the folks at 220.org. You do not have to live being on an emotional roller coaster related to your trauma. You can get with me and John or the folks at 220, and we can talk about how we can heal that. So don't be a stranger. You're going to hear us talk more about 220. We did 2 podcast episodes with Nick and Dan. So you can go ahead and search those out to understand more. Went through the protocol and the training myself. It is phenomenal. We'll talk more about that this Friday at our workshop. Thank you, Garland Police Department. If you are within driving distance, 2 hours at least, to the DFW area, check out badgeofhonor.org. We have got our wellness and resiliency workshop this Friday at Garland Police Department. Registration, how to register, whether you're eligible for a scholarship, it's all on the website. So go there and again, set the tone now for the rest of the year. Get your wellness and resiliency toolbox, get it in shape so that when the stress comes up, you can grab the tool that you connect with, that resonates with you, that works for you, employ it, and be successful in your career. We're talking about that and much more this Friday. Again, badgeofhonor.org. It's at this time where I normally shoot it to John to end, but I will say to all the first responders out there, we are praying for you every single day. To our veterans, thank you for fighting, for staying in the fight now with all of the amazing organizations out there that give us the freedom to do a show like this and talk about whatever we want each week. And to all of our active duty personnel overseas, wherever you are, thank you for keeping our shores safe right here at home. John, we're thinking about you. We're thinking about Tara, and we're thinking about Charlie. We're sending you all of our love and prayers. And until next week, everybody, stay safe. We'll see you then. Have a good night.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.